Hello everyone and welcome to today's Vacation Rental Management Association webinar, VRMA Insights Live Demo. On behalf of all of us at VRMA, thank you for joining us today. We're pleased to have you participate in VRMA's monthly webinar series, made possible in large part due to the generous support of our gold sponsors. My name is Delana and I'll be helping in the background to help with any technical issues you may have. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers, Scott Leggett and Linnell Eadie. Linnell is the president and co-founder of LSI, a groundbreaking software company that has been creating custom solutions for all aspects of property management for more than 15 years. Before establishing her own company, Linnell had an extensive background working with Fortune 500 companies with specializations in software development, testing, and management. And she also has been involved in a family-run vacation rental management company for more than 20 years. Linnell holds degrees in computer engineering and political science, is a licensed North Carolina real estate broker, and is active in property management-oriented organizations, including VRMA. Scott is the CEO of LSI Tools and has worked for the past 20 years with some of the largest vacation rental companies on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, one of the most renowned vacation rental home markets in the country. Throughout his career, he has been deeply involved in industry issues and organizations and has been a board member and chairman of the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce, a board member and chairman of the Outer Banks Tourism Bureau, and a past president of the North Carolina VRMA. He's a frequent speaker at conferences and has served on several property management committees, which includes his current seat on the VRMA Board of Directors. Throughout this presentation, you'll be able to ask questions of our presenters. You can do this by typing your questions into the question box in your GoToWebinar sidebar, and the presenters will be available to answer questions throughout, so feel free to type them in and we'll get to as many as we can. I also just wanted to draw everyone's attention before we start to two of our upcoming VRMA conferences where you can see presenters such as today's in person. Coming up first, we have the VRMA Education Conference taking place March 17th through 19th in Prague, followed by our Spring Forum, which will be taking place April 15th through 16th in Charlotte, North Carolina. We hope to see you there. We also have upcoming webinars, which you can view by visiting our website at www.vrma.org for additional education opportunities. And with that, I'd love to turn things over now to Linnell and Scott, our presenters for today, to kick things off.
Hey guys, we're excited to be with you today, and I hope you're staying warm in the cold air that's happening. Let me get the right screen up, guys. There we go. So we're going to start out by coming here to VRMA Insights, and we're going to take a look at this as we look at it live. Scott's going to start by telling you guys a little bit about VRMA Insights and how we first began and how the idea came to pass.
Sure. So it's been a long time goal of the VRMA to be able to collect and aggregate data for our industry. Many of you, if not most of you, are familiar with the STAR reports by Smith Travel that the hotel motel sector does. Basically, the premise there is that participants share their data with Smith Travel. It's aggregated there, and then the market data is shared back with them. So they have a great overview of what's happening in their market. It helps them set their rates. It helps them do their strategic planning and their marketing. The vacation rental industry is just a couple years shy from being larger than the entire hotel motel sector. So we've lagged behind as an industry in collecting data and sharing it with our membership. So VRMA has initiated this endeavor here to collect and aggregate data for the vacation rental industry for our members to use to make their marketing decisions.
So please feel free to ask questions as we go along. We don't want to lose anyone. If you have a question, just type it in there, and VRMA will read it to us Delana, I think, is going to read it to us. So here we go. We're going to start out by looking at what is a dashboard. So this dashboard, we're looking at the dates between June and September because this is a beach company. It's part of our demo data that we did when we were in beta. And so when we were in beta, we gathered a lot of information from the Outer Banks area and down the Crystal Coast of North Carolina, and that's where this data comes from. So we're going to start out with the stats that we're looking for, and this dashboard is like at a glance. What am I going to see at the very beginning when I log in? And it should be a glance of how you're doing in your business compared to how others are doing in your same market. So we're going to start out with paid occupancy, and I think everybody knows what paid occupancy is, but just in case you don't, you can take a look and click on, you can click here or you can click on the info button, and it's going to tell you what paid occupancy is and how it is being measured here. So we're going to see paid occupancy, off-market, and availability. Now, Scott, everybody always asks me immediately, well, what is off-market and why are you showing it? So can you start out in the middle instead of on the left?
Sure. So when you're looking at what's available in your market, you have to account for what's off market, because in the vacation rental industry, we typically don't own our own inventory. So we have owners staying in the properties. We have properties that have maintenance blocks on them, or for one reason or the other, the owner has decided not to rent them during a certain period. So you have a certain percentage of your inventory that's typically off market, and we want to identify that.
All right, so what then we have is paid occupancy, which is occupancy with reservations that have money on them. And you can see that here, it's the rent is charged. And you have availability, which is the percentage of the nights available. This is any night that doesn't have a booking during this period, and then what's left is off market. So between these three, that's 100% of your inventory, 100% of what's happening during this time period that we're looking at, which is our summer season of 2018. So in paid occupancy, if you see, you can see here that the blue, that represents the company we're looking at. So the blue would be you. When you look at this, anything blue all throughout VRMA Insights, all throughout where you see blue, that's you. When you see gold, now that's your local market. So everywhere you see gold, it's going to represent, see down here, it's going to represent the local market. And the blue line is you and where you stand. Now, the red says, oh, I am not so great in this stat. And the green over here says, wow, you're up. So as you look through here, you're going to see where it's green or where it's red. Everywhere it's red, it means pay attention. So even though the number might be greater, that in some situations it could be red, but your number greater, it simply means this is a number that you need to take a peek at, because some numbers you're better if you've got a lower number as opposed to a higher number. And we'll go through that. So Scott, take a look at this and tell me what's happening with this particular company, for example.
All right. So we see our demo company, and just to reiterate something that Linnell said, this is real data from a real company that through our beta period along the North Carolina coast. So this company is down over the reporting period here, which is the summer season, June 1st through September 7th. They're down 3 points from their local market, which could be very significant because these tend to be large companies, and some of them, they probably average about 400 properties per company. So those 3 percentage points equate to a difference of an average of 12 homes a week that aren't getting rented in their program during a peak season. And I think all of us have been there where an owner doesn't get a home rented during a peak period, you risk losing that property. So that's a significant number there. We also see over on the right-hand side that they have more availability, and that is not accounted for because of the off-market part, because the off-market is roughly the same, 11.2 and 11.3. So they have about the same number of owners staying in their property during this period as their competitors.
So what you're saying is that this property management company represented in blue is down. So in other words, they have their paid occupancy is down, their availability is literally down, and so they're doing a little less than the market.
Yeah.
By these stats.
So this is a case where the higher number on the availability is a worse performance.
Exactly. So you've got 14.7, 11.4, and you're down.
Exactly.
Now down below this is basically just a chart, so you can see these three numbers stacked on top of each other. It's exactly what you see above, but it's stacked, so you can see 100% of you, which is, so you can look here and see the dark is the property management company. This is your off market, and this is your availability, and this is the local market. This is the local market off market, and this is the local market's availability. So all of this is going to equal 100%. It's just another way to show it depending on how you like to see it. Now we come to something really interesting. So we said they're down, right? We said they're down in availability. So they've got more availability than other people, and they've got less paid occupancy, but they're making more money.
Right. So the metrics that we're looking at right now are revenue per paid unit and revenue per available unit. And we can see here that the revenue per rented unit, per paid unit, they're making $540 to $30 more than their competitors on average for each week in each home. And when you look at the revenue per available unit, the same pattern follows. The revenue for available units includes everything that was available for rental that week, whether it was rented or not. So that's why you see a lower number. That accounts for the unrented inventory.
Okay. So the same thing proves out for their per paid room and their revenue per available room. So it looks like they're making more money even though they're down a little bit. So, and it looks like their pricing is higher. I mean, they're making more money.
Sure. Let me elaborate a little bit on what that means there. So oftentimes you can, if you were looking at the other metric, revenue per paid unit, they might have a better inventory than the rest of the market. They might have larger homes where the market has a good share of condos. When you look at revenue per paid room, we're taking into account the number of bedrooms and comparing that. So they're getting $125 a night per bedroom, where the local market's averaging $115 per night per bedroom.
Okay, so what you're saying is in this case, they could be making more money per unit because it's a luxury, or maybe because they have 20 bedrooms as opposed to the condos, like you said.
Exactly.
But when you look at this revenue per paid room, this is the great equalizer right here.
Sure.
And so that's not the case, obviously. And if it is the case, they're still making more money per room.
Sure. So what this looks like, where we saw them down slightly in paid occupancy at the first metric we looked at, we can see they're earning more revenue per reservation. And in many instances, their owners may be putting more money in their pockets than those homes that are actually renting a little better than that their competitors have.
Now the reason I'm hammering this home just a little bit and just making sure we go slowly is because you don't want to take a look at the first stats and go, gee, we're doing really bad, because that's really not a whole picture. The reason we have all these stats on your dashboard is so you can see basically the whole picture of how you're doing. So take a look down here, and let's go down a little bit to the average booking window. Now the average booking window, if you look at what a booking window is, the booking window, Scott, why don't you tell us what that is?
So the booking window is the number of days between when somebody makes their reservation and they actually arrive to begin their vacation. And so you can see in this case, our demo company is about 8 days difference in their booking window, which would give you cause for concern under most circumstances. But when we look at the metric to the right and see that their average daily rate is $90, almost $90 more than what their competitors are, it looks like you know, that booking window becomes a little less important there because they're booking at a pretty good pace and they're getting more revenue for each rental.
Right. And the average length of stay is exactly the same. So they're having, it looks like it's across the board exactly the same here. And it's 7.2 because in this market, the average length of stay is 7 days, and they have some 14-day reservations, which are hitting, and this is summer. So most of our clients on the Outer Banks in the summer do have a 7-day rental period. So now what's below this are booking trends. And you can really get in the weeds here. There's a lot to know about this. Performance down, performance up, as you can see here. But basically what you're having here, and once you get used to this report, it's really easy to read where you are. These are an indication. They're all this data up above taken and put into a booking trend and performance and a revenue trend and performance report.
In the performance column, you see there is compared in each of those time periods with the local market, because you can see in the paid occupancy during the 15-week period that we defined there, they were 3 points down. We saw that in the first metric we looked at, and then you can break it down to the individual weeks as well. So you're seeing on 9/7 they were 2.5 up, 8/31 they were 7.3 up. So you can expand this and look at each week individually and determine how you perform during those weeks and use this however you will with your marketing or your pricing. But we're not really allowed to talk pricing during these sessions here. So you use the data and make your own decisions on whether you need to make adjustments or not.
Exactly. We don't recommend pricing, but we do show you where you are in the market. And as a property manager, I'm certain that everybody sets their prices. So we're not setting it, but you guys are. That's your job to set it and make it right. And it looks like this particular company has tweaked it really well. I will tell you that they had access to this data during this season, so I think they've done a really good job of using it. I know they used it. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to go over to the left-hand side. Where do you want to go under reporting?
All right. So reporting has 4 main categories there. We look at occupancy as a category, revenue as a category, booking, and geographic information, which is the source of where your reservations are coming from by zip code and by actual location in their state. So we're going to look at, let's look at the paid occupancy tab under occupancy first.
Okay, so what paid occupancy is, there are 2 ways to get there. You can click over here on the left-hand side, or you can actually click here to see the report. So you have different ways to navigate this page. Just want to remind you that what we're going to look at with paid occupancy is these are homes that have rent on them. So if it has rent on it, we're going to show it. If it has just an extra, say you just have a reservation with owners coming in that have linens on it and don't have rent on it, then that will not show. Scott, you also wanted to talk about the property management systems that are integrated with them. So which?
Sure.
So.
Well,
okay, it's opened. I was waiting for that to open. I thought we'd have a minute to do that.
That was a slight stall there that we were doing. So.
Well, it wasn't opening immediately. I was like, well, let's see what else you have on your thing here. So okay. We've got that to go.
For some reason, the date range is reset there. If you can reset
sure.
that. So what while Linnell resets the date range there, you can look at this and all of a sudden this report is expanded significantly because you're allowed to filter it so that you're comparing specific segments of your inventory with the rest of the market. You can check your own performance in just about every category based on bedrooms, house types, locations, and amenities. And so just for purposes of this demonstration, Linnell, let's click on 6 and 7 bedrooms and oceanfront.
Okay. And what we're going to do there is it allows you to actually see where your inventory is based on the different amenities that we're looking at here. Now, in some cases, like we found in Hawaii, there are things here that are not included. And when you get here and you're looking at it, you can click on Help, and Help will take you to a screen that will allow you to make a recommendation. So if we're missing something here for your market and you know it, then you just let us know, and we'll look at adding that, okay? So we're going to look at, so this is overall, these are the same stats we saw from the front page, except we're seeing state and national. So 6,
7, oceanfront.
Oceanfront. Okay. So what are we looking at here, Scott?
Okay. So right now what we're trying to do is isolate certain segments of the inventory, and you're going to see these numbers adjust here as we go. And so the percentages of paid occupancy have changed here, and you can see these larger homes with oceanfront homes are renting better than their average was, which was down at 74 or so. They're still slightly behind the local market there, but as you go through the other reports, I think you're going to see that they get more revenue. And as Linnell mentioned too, we begin to show you a state and a national view here too, so that you're comparing outside of your local market. Now, this report here, we really was done from our beta project, which was primarily in North Carolina along different segments of the coast here. So the national data is just really mirroring the state data. Since we launched nationally in October at the international conference, we now have national data that we'll start filling in when you get your reports. So
as we come down and we look at the green and the red, the green is where you're doing really, really well compared to the rest, and the red is where you need some help, or you may not need help. It's basically, though, for paid occupancy, other people have more than you, so yeah, you need help for the most part.
Can you pull that up just a little there?
Which way am I going?
Hey, you're good there. Yeah, so your intense periods here are where the gradation of the green is darkest, is where you've performed best. Sometimes these things are largely explainable by rate periods. In this area, they traditionally have seasonal rates, and so you can see transition weeks there, like that June 22nd week was a week that likely was at a lower rate period than the June 29th week, where weeks jumped up into their peak rate. And then you can see where the rates start to decline in early August there. They begin taking them down. And again, you look at September 7th, that's when they shifted to their off-season rates. And so they had a really high occupancy there.
Okay. So here you can see it on a chart in this way. You see the national is purple and the state is yellow, and as always, local is gold, and the local company is blue. So you can see where you are based there, and that's how the occupancy. Now, where are you going from here? Where would you like me to go?
We're going to go to revenue, the revenue tab, and let's go to revenue per paid unit, Rev PPU.
Mm-hmm. So explain to me again, what is revenue per paid unit?
Revenue is the average revenue of all your rented units during the date period that you've defined. So
this is the revenue per paid unit for all of them. Right. Okay.
And again, you can see that they're averaging over $300 more per week per unit here than their local market and the state market there. And again, you'll be able to see in the color gradations below where those peak revenue periods were. When did they make their most money here?
And, wow, yeah.
And that will also show you where there's opportunity, because where your shading is less intense, it may mean you need a rate adjustment. Where it's intense green, it may indicate to you that you can raise your rates during that period because demand is high.
All right. And again, at the bottom, it's really easy to see that you can compare yourself to where you're doing your local market, your state market, your national market. And as you can see here, their state's a little different than their local, but it's not that much different. And this includes all the coast all the way down from, actually this is probably all of the Outer Banks for the state and all the way down to the Emerald Isle area for this data. It includes more now. We have a lot more in participation than we did at this time. So do you want to show how it compares to the 1 and 2 bedrooms, or where are we going from here?
Yeah, we can do that. Just go ahead. All right.
So you can see how much money they're making more than the market for the 6 and 7 bedrooms. When you slice and dice it this way, it allows you to look into your inventory and actually see where you might need to change things, where you might need to update based on specific slices of your inventory. For instance, where you are with your condos, where you are with your 1 and 2 bedroom homes, and based on your market, that certainly is going to change, as we'll see here when we look to see. And I apologize for my internet. It's a little slow today with the webinar going on it, and it's taken a few minutes to pull the data.
Well, Linnell's, while we're waiting for that, Linnell, let's just click on the Standard Markets tab there, and we'll show them, explain what that is. So a lot of companies, and in this case, these companies are in the Outer Banks, which stretches 70 miles or so along the coast of North Carolina. They have different communities, and those communities have different types of inventory, and there's different, they attract different clientele to them. And so if you wanted just to see, for instance, define a market as the town of Nags Head and the limits of Nags Head, we can set up those markets for you by zip code. So in this case, we've defined 5 markets from the participants in this group here, and they can isolate the inventory from one geographic area to another. And so and that's something that any of you who use the tool are able to do for your inventory.
So for this particular company, they have these are the markets. They actually have 6 markets here. Their standard market is going to be wherever their zip code is. Anywhere that they have a home and it has a zip code is their standard market. That's always going to be everybody's standard market. It's your local market. Market number 1, they've actually taken certain cities in their area, and they've divided it based on, you could call it little villages in this particular area or neighborhoods, and they've made different markets so they know where they stand. Some of them are very high end. One of these markets is one of the most high end in North Carolina, and so they've pulled that out so they can compare just that subset and just that market. And those are ways that they can see where they're doing inventory wise in those. Now, we're looking at 2 bedroom oceanfront. I didn't do 1 because almost always that's going to be a condo, but 2 bedrooms we do have some homes, so it may be condos or duplexes, and they're still doing better. Yeah, their pricing is just dead on.
So they're getting more revenue for their owners across the spectrum of their inventory than their competitors in the market. So they're doing a great job of marketing it and maximizing the revenue that they get each week.
They're doing really great compared to everybody else. I mean, they're killing it on that lower end too. Do we have any questions? I was looking to see. I don't want to ignore. If you have questions, guys, just type them in.
Yeah, not come in yet, but as a reminder, everyone, you can use the question box in your sidebar to enter those in throughout the program.
Normally when we do this live, we've got like a dozen questions by now, so we just wanted to let you know, feel free to ask questions, and we're happy to get to it. Let's go to, where do you want to go to average daily rate?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, we're going to move down to average daily rate. And when we do, I want to bring up something else that we have up here. You can look at your data by 7-day, 30-day, 60, or year over year. The year over year is going to be really helpful to see where you were this year based on where you are last year. And you can see that you can look also at daily reports. You can look at it weekly, which is what we're doing. Because based on the seasonality we have here, it kind of makes sense. Somewhere like Hawaii might be a little different. You know, you're really not basing it. You've got a lot more weeks than we do here in North Carolina. So this is the average daily rate, and we've got 2 bedrooms. Actually, I'm going to pull that off for a minute, but right now for 2 bedrooms, you're looking at, now this is all the way across the inventory, so it's going to change significantly. This is what we saw on the front page. For your average daily rate, they're getting more, and I wonder if we took it down and looked at 2, 3, 4, 5, where their sweet spot would be. I think we've looked at that before, and I think it comes like with 2 and 3, they're really great, and as well when you get up here in the higher, and it's right in the middle that they have just a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah. So one of the parallels that you see is that they were averaging about, not on the average daily rate, but on the revenue per paid unit, they were getting $400 or so more per week, and that went across the spectrum there. Here on the average daily rate, it's
$100 more.
$100 more in the homes that you defined there.
And as you look and see what they've done with their oceanfronts, which are their premier homes, they've got even more. So they've really tweaked that for oceanfront, and they're doing great.
Yeah, and that's not compared to other location properties. It's compared to only oceanfront properties of their competitors.
So you can also take a look if you want to know how you're doing on their sound front homes or your sound side, canal front, whatever you guys decide that we need to add up there, we will. But right now, this is what we're showing from this particular area. So if you go look at their sound front homes, again, they're just priced, and they're renting it too. So where do you want to go now? Do you want to go to geographic or booking?
I wanted to go to booking, and let's look at the booking window.
All right. So the booking window, just as a reminder, is the time when the person books, the guest is booking, to when they're coming in. That's the window. And each slice of your inventory likely has a different booking window. That's a really important statistic to track analytically if you're trying to figure out where you are in the market. So
let's go back to 6 and 7 bedroom oceanfront.
All right.
Have some notes on those.
Okay, so we're going to do 6 and 7 oceanfront. Looking at where it is on soundfront right now, their average booking window, they're very much similar. They're a day or so out. It's 166 to 177, 176 to 177. All right, so we're going to do oceanfront 6 and 7 foot homes, and I think I've got that in there already. And all right. The other thing to notice here in your reporting options is you can choose all different types. You can do a custom range, and we have some that are shortcuts here. If you just want to look at last year as opposed to this year, and you can look at this year, then you can go to next year and see how you're booking in the future. So what you've got on the books for 2019, so you can compare that. That's where the year-over-year report comes in really handy. And then you can also put a custom range in if you'd like. Let me go to oceanfront 6, 7. The other thing to note on the left-hand side of our menu is these stats. Let me open it back up. These reporting stats that you see here on the left-hand side, they're the same ones that we have on the front page. So remember where I said there was a shortcut? That shortcut comes right over here. All right, Scott, I'm taking off soundfront, but here you go. Oceanfront 6 and 7.
Okay.
Oh, same picture. All right.
Can I jump in here for a second? We have 2 questions that came in. One, someone's wondering if you can add other locations like second row, third row, no water view, etc.
So the answer to that is yes and no. We define certain things that the categories have to fit in, because when you're comparing things, your competitor might use different terms than you're doing. For instance, you take the terms semi-oceanfront. Somebody else might call that's one that means one house between it and the oceanfront in one locality, and somewhere else they might define that as one back. And or we even have some people giving the distance to the high water line, 100 yards from the high water mark or high tide line. So we have to normalize that data for comparison. So what we do is give you a menu, and then you map your properties to that menu so that you can have the best comparisons that we can do. There are just so many things out there. Some people call a game room a media room. Some people call an in-home theater a game room and a media room. So just normalizing those terms has been one of the biggest challenges of building this tool.
Now this says Oceanside. That's likely what you're talking about, second row. The other thing is, as we get into different areas, remember this help button over here? Please click that, and you can make a suggestion, or you can say, I have an issue. And so make those suggestions, and when we look in your area, we'll know that we need to normalize that data a little bit differently. Yeah, so that's the yes, and he had the no, so we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, so great point. As we look at each locality, we're going to try to use the terminology that's used there. Obviously, this isn't going to work in Aspen or Breckenridge with these terms. So, we will define them to each local market.
It won't even work in Hawaii either, and we found that out too. So we're making sure that as everybody gets up and running and they make those suggestions, we will make changes. They even have something here, Scott, that's like between the highways area. Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are so many different ones, but normalizing it definitely. And I can't imagine that we wouldn't need to do what you're talking about with what the person that asked the question is. The second row.
And my favorite is we have one client that uses the term almost oceanfront.
That's true. Yeah. Well, whatever works, in your market. Your market is different, and that's the truth. I mean, we look at those and it sounds kind of weird, but, to people that are in that area and used to renting the guests that come, they know what that means. Did you have another question?
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question is someone was just wondering if this is compatible for Canadian users.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be international. We do some international launching in March this year, I think. Mm-hmm. So certainly depends on your property management system. We interface with anybody that will interface with us. Anybody that wants to integrate with us as far as a PMS, we do.
So just by way of explanation, how this data is collected is through APIs provided by your PMS system, your property management system. And so as long as that your PMS system, and almost all do, have an API that we have authorization to get into for the purposes of aggregating this data, we can collect it anywhere, any locality.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be everywhere that you want us to be. Anywhere that VRMA is, we can make that happen.
Okay, and one more question we have here is we have someone who's wondering, what is the difference between this software and key data software, if you're familiar with that?
Yeah, we are very familiar with it.
This is the only VRMA endorsed. The biggest difference there's a lot of differences in the software itself, I'll say that. Without going into all of that, the biggest difference is that this software was built for the vacation rental managers, period. It was built by the association. It is not for profit. The biggest difference is that there are investors that are in the other software as opposed to this software, which will be free to all VRMA members always. It will never not be free. And we don't have to make money off of it because VRMA, there's some things that we do to subsidize it ourselves. And so that part will always be free. I think that's the biggest difference in my opinion. Well, the other thing is this suggestion box that we have over here, that's going to be shaped. The vacation rental managers are going to shape this product. They will be the ones that say, we want it to do this, we want it to do second row, we need it to do this in order for it to be valid for us and able to work for us. So, you're going to build it yourselves. This is just the preliminary launch. We've just launched it. So that's the biggest difference. although there are other differences in the software that we've seen, because we've actually gotten together and demoed it to each other. So we've sat with them and looked at theirs. They've sat and looked at ours. So we've kind of, just to make sure that we're on different pages in a lot of areas. So anything else you want to add to that?
I think you did a great job.
Another user is asking, what PMS systems does this work with?
All that will interface with us. So if we're going to name them off, but if you have a PMS that's not named, all you have to do is reach out and have them reach out to us, and we will interface with them with the API. No self-reporting, like Scott said. Good data in, good data out. Honestly, that's what it means. The other thing, I just want to mention one more quick thing. The other big difference between us and any other company, I'm not just mentioning any other company that might do this, is that we know where your data is going. We know who's sharing that data. All that is being approved by the Vacation Rental Managers Association. We're not sharing that data with anybody else. We're also not collecting your guest data. As you can see on here, there's no place that we use your guest data except for one field, and that zip code, and you're going to see that when we look at geographic reports. But other than that, we don't share your data, and we don't grab your guest data. We're not looking to mine your data for any other reason other than to show you this information for yourself. We will be working with tourism authorities and all different kinds of different government entities and other people that are interested in this data from VRMA, but it's also a profit share between them. So this is not something that we've done and we're like, oh, we're going to make a whole bunch of money off of that. That's likely not going to happen. We hope it's going to pay for itself, but the reason we did this was not to make a whole bunch of money. It was to have this for the Vacation Rental Managers Association to use for their vacation rental managers.
So the answer is that if we're not integrated with someone now, we're happy to integrate with anybody. We're integrated with all of the HomeAway products, V12, Escapia, NTAC, First Resort. We're integrated with Streamline, Guesty, Barefoot, RMS, VRM rather, and we have several others in the pipeline that we're currently doing the integration parts with. So not too much there that is missing.
Yeah, for the larger ones, we're already integrated because you've asked. But if we're not integrated with them, just ask and have them send us the API information, and we'll get it integrated. And
what I would encourage everyone to do is also remember that you have terms of use with your PMS provider, and your data is your data. If they are hesitant to participate in this project, they're withholding your data from how you would like to use it. So I'd really encourage anybody who is not integrating with the project now to do that, because it's really, we've had this phobia in our industry for a long time. What's happening with our data? Who's collecting it? Who's using it? Are your PMS providers going to resell it? Are they using it for their third-party distribution channels? Your data is your data, and if you want to participate in this project, your data should be free-flowing and allowed to be a participant.
And just reiterating that, your data is your data. Make sure you know when you give that data to somebody else where it's going. Make sure you know exactly what they're going to use it for, and that you have that in legalese that it's written. When you log in here, you'll see that we're going to show you, as a matter of fact, we're running late, okay? We're going to have to scurry along to show. I'm going to leave this, Scott, if it's okay, and go to geography right now.
Sure.
Like I said, the other thing
Let's go to bookings first.
Okay. The other thing you'll need to make sure of is where your data is going. So we're going to show you as well how to sign up in just a few minutes. This is the geographic area this is geographic representation of where these oceanfront 6 and 7 bedrooms are coming from. The first thing you'll see here is that there's this geographic map, which you can, which you can look at this way and move it over, and it's really cool. It's a really great graphic, but to me, here's where the money is.
Yeah, so there was a little anomaly here that amused me here because I know this market well. If you go back up to the map for just a second, you scroll down a little bit more. Where was it? Something just changed here.
I made it smaller and bigger. Sorry.
Okay, go down where you can see Florida down there on the left hand.
Oh.
So you see that great big green spot there in Florida, and you're going, wow. In that category of homes, 6 and 7 bedroom oceanfronts in the Outer Banks, Florida is their number one spot. You look at that, and what that represents there is you see the number 49. That's the number of days. So number of days divided by or 49 divided by 7 is 7. What that means is that there were 7 weeks rented from people from Windermere, Florida, which I'm guessing was a family reunion or something that year that really skewed their results.
Oh, you're saying 7 families from Windermere rented
7 homes.
7 homes. Ah,
exactly.
That's really
so otherwise, you can see what we do is put this in a chart form here and show you where all those reservations from those categories are coming, and then compare that side by side to where the local market is. And you can see in that Windermere, they had 0 there. It was their 109th.
So they had nothing from that area.
They had nothing from that area.
I'm going to check this off. Is that okay?
Sure.
I think the other stats are pretty amazing. So the local market had nothing from Windermere. You had all those 7, all that full 7 bookings.
Right.
That's very interesting based on the large. Okay. So let me take out the 6 bedroom. And we're just going to look overall at the inventory and see where bookings came from for this particular company as opposed to the market. This I find fascinating to me. So here on the left-hand side, you can see in Mechanicsville, Virginia, they had a number of bookings. They have a lot of people that come to their company from that area. And it's number 3 for the local market. It's number 1 for this company, but it's number 3 for the local market. Thing I find interesting is, okay, this is 2. You should usually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side, more or less. If you see an anomaly like this is number 23, you know that you're doing more marketing to this particular zip code. This is by zip code now, not by city. So they've got a lot more people coming. They're number 5 here. It's number 23 in the market. But there's number 5, so that's common, so that's no big deal. But now if it were me, I would come down and I would say, okay, this zip code in Mechanicsville, I need to throw some Facebook, some immediate marketing at, because that's number 1 for them, for the whole area, as opposed to them. And that's the different zip codes in the same area.
Yeah. It's a different zip code in the same town. So I'm not sure, you could almost combine those two in terms of your geographic reach. One of the things that I would look at this for is those kind of ads that you can do on social media where you really specifically target those to specific demographics and zip codes.
Right.
And you look and see, well, hey, we're doing great here. Let's continue doing there. Or you might also say, hey, find an area where it's really strong for the rest of the local market that you've ignored, and you can pay more attention to.
The other thing that you can do here, okay, so I would come down and I would look at number 6. Mine's number 32. This would be my company on the left, and it's number 6 in the market. I seriously would target that zip code. But now I'm looking at my larger homes. So let's see where their larger homes are coming from and look at the anomalies here, because the cool thing here is this. This is what I look at. Number 15 for me is Ashburn, Virginia. But over here for the market, number 3 is Ashburn and number 4. So I could immediately go do some targeting on these 2 for this particular. So I would be showing pictures of larger homes that are 6 and 7 bedroom, and I'd be showing them in these zip codes over here that are in the top 10 that I'm not. That's really awesome. I mean, that's awesome marketing. I mean, this data is just phenomenal. We added this toward the end of the season for the beta, which is why likely this hasn't been really taken advantage of by this company, because I think they did a great job on other areas. But in this particular area, they could really do some niche marketing here that would kick it up a notch. can I go show, can we show the sign-in, or where you want to go?
Yeah, I think let's go to that. We've got less than 10 minutes, so
you guys
cover that.
Give questions as you've got them. I'm going to change where we're going to look. Let me change the screen over to here. All right, let me move this over because I can't see it. Whoops.
Linnell's about to show you how to enroll in VRMA Insights here.
Yeah, if I can get there. Let's see. Let me move the window over first because it's not letting me do that. Okay, so let me move this. Let's bring it up. All right. One big quick, I'm going to do an incognito window. Let's show that. All right, showing the screen. All right, so we're going to go to, if you're a VRMA member, here's how you log in. Here's how you find your login. You're going to go to VRMAinsights.com, and you're going to see something that looks like this, all right? You're a VRMA member, so we have your information in our database. And if we don't, then we just don't have if you've just done it in the last few days or the last week or so, we may not have it in there. We just requested a new list. That was like 2 days ago. You're going to request your password. You're going to put your name, your email address. This is mine. I'm going to request the password, and it's going to give you your login. And then you're going to return to the login, and you're going to log in with it. That's all you need to do to be able to get in. The most questions that we get about signing up for VRMA Insights is after you do this and you start to log in, it's going to ask you, what's your property management system? And it's going to ask you for a username and password. For people like Barefoot users, Streamline users, VRM users, they're just going to send you a username and password. You actually can look up part of that information in your software. There are directions online that tell you that. And we usually get you up and running within a couple of days. It takes about 48 hours to harvest the data to make sure we have everything. It could happen in as little as an hour, but it may take as many as 48 hours. For HomeAway products, it is a lot more complex. For HomeAway products, you have to, for the Escapia users, you're going to do the partner picker. For the VRMA Insight, for the V12 users, you're going to have a set of directions on how you choose us as your marketing partner. And then you have to go in and choose pieces that we have access to. So it's a lot more complex, and it's been the most difficult integration that we've had so far. So I want to introduce you to Julie. Julie is, let me move the camera. Julie, come over here on the camera. Let's see. All right. This is Julie.
Hi, everybody.
Julie's sitting around. Julie is the keeper of the VRMA Insights support team. She actually manages that team, and she's going to be calling you guys. If you haven't signed up, she's going to call you and say, hey, it's free. What's up? You're not signing up. So Julie manages all those types of issues that you're going to be having. So if you have any issues, you can email help@vrmainsights.com or julie@lsi.biz or info, whatever. Any email address that you've got up on your screen when you come here to log in. Let me come back here. I'm going to move this back over to the regular screen, screen of 2. All right, and in this help, you can also just put a help in here, the general activation. I can't get it activated, and this will automatically create a ticket for Julie as well, and she'll get access to that. What am I missing, Scott, in our last 5 minutes?
Yeah, so if anybody has any issues with enrolling, Julie's the person that will help you and walk you through that. Make sure it happens.
Yeah. If you have suggestions, like this, okay, this is a suggestion this is a suggestion. Now, this is because because it's me, I can see this. We just added air conditioning as an amenity in Hawaii because it was a huge distinguishing between the different revenue pieces of your inventory. Like homes that had air conditioning, the revenue is hugely different than the ones that did not have. So for that, we added that recently. We also have a glossary here. You can see a glossary of terms. And we have filtering options that allow you, show you which filters you're using. These are the filters for the coastal areas, for the mountain areas, the lake areas. You'll see differently based on where you are. So for that second row, you know, that would end up showing here when that's added. There are some frequently asked questions, and here's that area over here that you can take a peek at. Under the company information, now I'm in demo, so I'm not sure what it's going to show me. I don't think I've done this. Okay, so under the company profile, it's going to show you your company, who your users are, who the administrator is. You can add their information there. But one thing you need to know is that we use two-party authentication on this. So you have to put a cell phone number in. It's going to, when you log in, it's actually going to go to your cell phone. I was going to show you what it did to mine earlier because I got my password again. It's going to go there and it's going to give you an authentication and it's going to send you a code here and you're going to have to put it in online. So for the two-party authentication, we don't want anybody to have access to your data. The other piece you need to know is when you begin to activate it, you're going to have a piece called authorization. And what that is, this is what it looks like when you set yourself up. It's going to show you where you are in your process. So this is LSI number demo. It's going to show you whether or not you've successfully given us the information for your property management system. This is going to show you successfully when both the pieces that have to be activated are activated and we have data. This is going to check for your current data. It'll say when it brought back the latest bookings. And this is the data verification. Data verification is going to say, for this reservation, what is the zip code? For this property at this date and time, you know, what's the last name of the guest coming in? Things that only you would know. And the reason for that is when you first activate this, we want to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you have access to the software. So you would have to go into the property management system and give us that information for the data verification. If you have a problem with one of those questions, email us, and we'll get back with you ASAP. There is a mapping section, and that's where we're talking about with the data mapping. Okay, so with the data mapping, it's going to look like this. You're going to see a mapping process where you're going to map your fields with our fields. For the bedrooms, will come across automatically as bedrooms. This is whether it's a condo, duplex, or a house, those type of things. It's going to show how many units there are in those, and it will basically, when you click on edit fields, it'll let you edit it, and it'll let you click on it to add it. So you'll come in and you'll map these particular features. All these are normalized data. If you don't have a fireplace, when you go to edit your field, there's going to be a manual. You can't see it here, but there'll be a manual field you can drop down and say, I have none. All of them have it. Or it would allow you to edit it normally. That's a lot of data coming in at the end. If you need help getting set up, contact us. We're happy to walk you through it and get you set up. Over on the left-hand side with the markets here where you set your markets. And other than that, I think that's easy setup. We're right at our time.
Any last-minute questions?
All right.
Like any other questions have come in, you all did a great job of explaining everything and answering those questions earlier. So thank you so much, Linnell and Scott, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As a reminder, to view past and upcoming webinars, you can visit vrma.org/webinars, and you should receive an email by the end of this week notifying you that today's webinar is available online under the webinar archive section of the website. On behalf of all of us here at VRMA and our gold sponsors who help make this webinar series possible, thank you again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you.
Thanks.